Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondon, and I'm the author of Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love. All of my books are available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible books. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do readings, 30, 60, and 90-minute readings, twin flame romance, general readings, life path and purpose. You can book that at my website, michellefondonauthor.com. And don't forget to download the free Twin Flames affirmation meditation. The link is below. Welcome to Twin Flame Guidance, where I attempt to guide you on a twin flame topic. Today's topic is a little bit difficult, I know, for so many of you, myself included. I promise you that. Sitting face to face with your own darkness. There is a reason why I am addressing this topic right here, right now, when I'm recording this in January of 2022. The reason is because myself, like I said, myself included, so many of us are being faced with our own darkness. Now, the reason why I wanted to produce this video right now is because a viewer presented something to me that I have heard before from other people. Not that I believe this theory, but I have heard it before. I've heard people in the comment section propose this theory. And, just general search on twin flames. I've actually heard this theory. And of course, it's just a theory. And if you stay tuned toward the end of the video, I'm actually going to debunk this theory. But first, I'm going to explain how to actually take a look at your darkness, your own darkness, to sit face to face with it. Not run away from it, but to sit face to face with your own darkness. And this theory that was brought to me by a viewer was that what if the twin flame connection is a result of malefic forces? So, some of the buzzwords I've heard are like witchcraft, voodoo, like superstitions type of things like that. The devil, right? Satan. So I have heard this theory that is out there. And rest assured, I'm going to help demystify and debunk that theory later on in the video. But first, I really wanted to address this concept of sitting face to face with your own darkness, because I've had to do this most recently again. It's not something that I haven't had to do, but it's something that I had been faced with again and again more recently. And if you haven't yet tuned into my Twin Flame Story Week by Week, the recent vlog that I started to post on my channel, then I would encourage you to check out that playlist because I really start to uncover these struggles that I have been having. So I just want to express to you what this really means, right? What this really means of sitting face to face with your own darkness. Because oftentimes when we are feeling this feeling of drudgery and darkness and fear, like deep fear, oftentimes we go to external sources to look for the reason, okay? Sometimes the sources are external, in fact, right? Sometimes they are, but most of the time, the sources of that darkness lie within. They lie within you. And to illustrate that point, I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a story about 2010. In 2010, I went to a meditation retreat. It was really odd because it was called Seduction of Spirit with Deepak Chopra, Dr. David Simon. I think Dr. Simon was sick at that moment, so I don't think he was there in person. I think he was there over video, or maybe he wasn't sick at that time. I can't remember, but it was with Deepak Chopra. And I remember where I was. I was in New Orleans. Was it New Orleans? No, it was Georgia. I know I'm changing the story, aren't I? But I've been to many of these events because I was also teaching at the events. So timelines and locations, but no, this was in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I was a part of Seduction of Spirit called Seduction of Silence. And it was actually an encouragement of a friend. Once I became certified as a Chopra certified instructor, as a Vedic master, I had like a gift from the Chopra Center to use toward one of their events. And I decided upon encouragement from a friend that I needed to do Seduction of Silence, which was a subgroup of this meditation retreat. It was an 8-day retreat. It was a subgroup. So there were about 30 to 35 of us in this subgroup. It was called Seduction of Silence at the time. I think now it's called Silent Awakenings. So it was called Seduction of Silence. And so there were 30 to 35 of us in this special group, which is kind of cool because we got to have more like one-on-one time with Deepak Chopra. And it was where we, for 3 out of the 7 days, or 4 out of the 7 days, I can't really remember, but it was like we had to be in total silence. And it was like from morning till night, silence, total silence in the midst of this retreat. Now, prior to going, I kind of knew I wasn't really ready to do something like this. I just didn't feel emotionally ready, spiritually ready to do something like this. But one of my besties had encouraged me to do it. And he was like, you need to do this. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to give you an interesting part of this story is that we had to have a buddy system during this Seduction of Silence because the fact that you're silent, a lot of stuff can come up. A lot of emotional stuff can come up. A lot of spiritual stuff can come up. And so we had this buddy system. And interestingly enough, I love this guy. His name is Paul. He was my buddy. Paul's a super interesting fella. He grew up Catholic like myself, and he was actually in seminary to become a Catholic priest. And I think he made it all the way through seminary, if I'm not certain, and he was a priest. Either way, he left the priesthood and got married to a Muslim woman. So that's like the really interesting part. But here's this guy, super nice guy, who was my buddy. Now, Paul had been to many silent retreats in the past. This was my first. And there was one point in the retreat where we learned levitation. And I'm not joking you. We learned levitation. We learned through a deep meditative practice how to levitate. And all of us were sitting in this room, this big room. All of us were sitting on these mattresses. They were like air mattresses, and we each had our individual air mattress so we wouldn't hurt ourselves. And we were practicing what is called Levitation Sutra. And I'm going into this. We're silent. Again, it's for 4 days. And already a lot of emotions are coming up. A lot of fears are coming up in me. And all of a sudden, I have my eyes closed. I'm doing this Levitation Sutra, and I'm feeling myself moving. Now, not exactly levitating, but sort of like rocking upward a little bit. So like partially levitating, if you will. And I was listening to the people around me who were like, I mean, to put it in like polite terms, like moaning and groaning, kind of. Like they were just making spontaneous noises that were kind of freaking me out. And immediately my mind went to like demon possession for some reason. Now, I believe that's my Catholic upbringing. And I got so freaked out. I got really freaked out that I began crying hysterically. I ran out of the room and I was just sobbing my eyes out. And the thing is I really believe, not knowing at the time, obviously, but that was kind of like a spiritual purging, if you will. That was like purging of all of my fears. Now, of course, I didn't really know it at the time. And I went through a lot of other weird symptoms. Like I had this like a day of intense vomiting that happened where I couldn't even go to the sessions because I was just throwing up all day. So I had this like innate fear. Now, what was interesting was that nobody else in that room was scared. Everybody felt safe, but me. And nobody else was freaked out, but me. So that just goes to tell you that when we're facing our own darkness, it usually has everything to do with us and not anything else external to us. Because even my priest friend, my former priest friend, Paul, he wasn't even freaked out. And like, he tried to talk me off the ledge, if you will, a little bit, and just like, no, you're going to be fine. It's okay. Like, things like that happen. Like, people like have a lot of emotional and spiritual breakthroughs in these kind of retreats. Whereas I don't think I was emotionally or spiritually ready to face that, to face my own darkness. And so, like, as you can see from that story, it wasn't really demonic possession, because if it was, I would have noticed it in everybody, right? Like, there would have been like, oh my God, like there's just zombies running around or demons running around. That wasn't the case. Everybody just finished the meditation. They cleaned up their little area and they were fine. I was the only one who was completely out of sorts. So that leads me to the expression of like, when we continually look outside of ourselves to face darkness, we're never going to resolve or figure it out. We need to turn inward. And I brought with me the moon card. This is from the Lightseers Tarot deck. And the moon card, like, as you can see, this woman, and she might be a mermaid, but she is submerged in the water and she's deep underwater. Meanwhile, there's a full moon and there are two wolves, a black and a white wolf, howling at the moon. And when we think about the moon energy, it's literally about submerging ourselves deep in the waters and looking at our own darkness, sitting face to face with our own darkness. And it's not any external sources that are bringing us that darkness, but it's ourselves that are bringing us our own darkness. And if we run away from it, like I ran out of the room, right? I ran out of the room where that meditation was happening, but was I less scared when I ran out of the room? No, I was actually like still freaking out for like an hour. So even though I ran from something I thought was an external source that was causing my fear, I ran, but my fears came with me because they were inside of me. And it's interesting because, you know, there's this symbolism of the werewolf here. That reminds me of another story. And I have mentioned before that one of my favorite series from the past that ended, I don't know, 2017, 2018, is Once Upon a Time, Disney's Once Upon a Time. And there's this story about Red Riding Hood, who is fearful, like her and her grandmother are fearful of the wolves that come out at night. And so they decide to like lock themselves inside and all this. And there even comes a point where Red, her name is Red, sees footsteps leading up to her bedroom where her boyfriend would come and check her out at night. And she realized that when all this bloodshed had happened, the footsteps were there. And so she was thinking like, oh my God, my boyfriend's really a werewolf. And so he says, well, chain me to a tree. And she said, okay. And what happens is she wakes up in the morning and her boyfriend is dead. And what Red realizes is that she is the werewolf. So, hello, twist there. But for everyone, there is a werewolf inside of us, or there's that darkness inside of us, right? And so we're needing to actually look within to our own inner darkness. Now, I'm going to bridge this to say, do I believe that there is no such thing as any external forces that might be malefic? I don't know that I'm thoroughly convinced that there are not. My sister and I might have a little debate about this. But, you know, I did grow up Christian Catholic, and I do believe that if there is good, there's also bad, because we live in this world of duality. Now, does that mean in the spirit world there is good and bad, malefic forces and good forces? I don't know. part of me does believe that because of our ego, we carry some of this fear-based stuff. And I'll explain in a minute what I mean. But if there are earthbound spirits, meaning like human spirits, right, that have passed on from this world, from this physical existence, but they have a lot of unfinished business due to very strong ego traits that were fear-based that caused them to do things that were not great. Can they wreak havoc on this earth plane because they haven't learned yet? Maybe. I don't know. I think that that is quite possible. But is it strong enough to alter the course of things when individuals have their own free will choice? Probably not. Like, I don't think so. But to that end, let's bring ourselves back to twin flames, your twin flame facing your darkness and debunking this myth that is out there about twin flames being a result of like negative forces or malefic forces or the devil or Satan or demons or possession or something, right? Let's debunk this. So I hope we can agree that universal spirit, the source of universal spirit is love, right? I hope we can agree on that. Like the source of universal light, the source of light, the source of holistic, what brings the universe to vibration, to the highest vibration, is love, okay? Anything moving away from love is fear, okay? And so I believe that if you are aligned with love, and to that end, if you are aligned with unconditional love, you are aligned with God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it. And if you are aligned with fear, then you are moving away from source, right? So here is source. Let's say this is source, where unconditional love resides. And if the further you move away from unconditional love into fear, you're moving away from source. So here's what I'm going to say. If you're on this twin flame journey and you have this sense, this feeling, this visceral response of unconditional love for your twin flame and for yourself as a result of this, and no matter what's going on in the physical plane, no matter what's going on here, everything that's like coming back to you is coming to this sense of unconditional love for your twin. Like this sense of just, I have this surge of unconditional love for this person, okay? If you have that, then I would say, how could it be malefic? Because the source of all creation is unconditional love. And if what you are experiencing is unconditional love in the presence or non-presence of your twin flame, then that's source energy. If you're experiencing fear, then that is coming away from source. And so some people would say that's ego. Some people could say that is like lower vibrational energy. Others might say that, okay, that's like malefic forces, right? But the more you stay rooted, centered, and grounded in love, especially unconditional love, if that is your experience on the twin flame journey, then this is coming from source. I hope that made sense to you. I hope that made sense to you. Because I don't want you to believe the misconceptions that are out there. The answers lie within. Are you experiencing unconditional love for yourself, for your twin, for this journey, for this connection, or aren't you? Now, the next thing that I do want to say is that some people have said, well, because it's hard, because there's not joy, because there's such hardship and sorrow and pain, it can't be from source. It can't be from universal love source, okay? So I'm going to debunk the number 2 myth in that as well. And I'm going to take the example of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, who was unconditional love incarnate, right? Unconditional love incarnate. He lived his life in an unconditionally loving way for humanity, for his family, for his resolve to preach, teach the word of God, right? That was Jesus of Nazareth, this vision. He had one of the most difficult lives of any human that ever lived, right? And you think like, oh my God, he was unconditional love incarnate. Like, wouldn't he have a joyful life? Wouldn't it be like easy and joyful and pain-free? It was in fact quite the opposite. It was quite the opposite because he reached adversity, criticism, judgment, pain, physical death. He encountered naysayers and skeptics and people that called him an imposter. Like, he encountered all of that. His life was not easy. So if you think that because it's hard, because it's difficult, because it's painful, it can't be from source energy, nothing could be further from the truth, because living in source energy, living in unconditional love doesn't mean your life is going to be easy. It just means that you're living from a higher perspective. So maybe if you're living from that unconditionally loving perspective, it's not going to affect you as much as if you were living in fear and in ego. Does that make sense? I know it's a bigger, broader spiritual concept, but I want you to know that there's truth out there and there is untruth. And I'm really trying hard to bring you the truth of these spiritual concepts and what is real. So source energy, unconditional love is real, right? That's real. That's what's here now. And any position where you're moving away from unconditional love is moving into fear. And fear brings you away from source. Okay? But in order to correct that, you need to first sit face to face with your own darkness and have a conversation with your darkness and go, what's going on here? I want to move back to unconditional love. What's going on here? So I hope this was helpful to Inflame. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flames. And thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can buy a book or 2 or 3. You can join a bootcamp or meditation course. You can also join my group coaching. The link is below. And I will see you in the next video.